Welcome to Times and Seasons with Dr. Abu Bako at the Logos Rima Foundation for Leadership Resource Development. The last time we spoke to a biochemist, a virologist, and in these interesting times, what the conclusion was of the discussion the last time was that we needed to focus more, pay more attention at boosting and strengthening our immune systems. So today we have, in addition to Dr. Abu Bako, we have Dr. Ben Gyan, who's an immunologist. Did I say that right? He's an immunologist who's going to be talking with us and sharing with us the very practical aspects of what all of this means. What does it mean to boost our immune system? What is the immune system? We're going to be talking from scratch, trying to understand how do we get from point A to point B with the immune system that God gave us. So my first question will be to Dr. Gyan. When we talk about the immune system, when we say immune system, immunology, what is this? What are we talking about? What are we referring to specifically?
Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this discussion. And so we'll talk about immunity, but just to start, I would say that I've been working in immunology, area of immunology as a discipline for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I am an associate professor in immunology at the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. And I've been involved in research for many years looking at malaria immunology. One of the basic questions we've been asking, as immunologists is that why would some individuals die of disease or develop the severe form of the disease? Why others, wouldn't? So that has been the underlying question. That has been the sort of research, I've been involved in. Why would some children be protected of severe malaria and others will not so and possibly even die? The term immunity, was derived from a Latin word. It is immunis. It means protection. I mean, you've been hearing about diplomatic immunity. So it means you are protected from maybe some laws or regulations. So the word immunity as pertaining to humans or hosts is the fact that as humans we have some level of protection against diseases, against infections. And this knowledge, had been with us many years, 400 BC, when they used to have, plagues, the outbreak of diseases, and then they realized that some individuals survived. And so it gave them some idea of the fact that if you encounter a pathogen, you are likely to survive. Some individuals, of course. So that gave them a little bit of knowledge as to what immunity is or immune responses. And so further down the lane, over the years, we had a better understanding of what we mean by immunity or immune response or the immune system of the host.
The immune system. So I hear when they learn with experience when you encounter a pathogen.
Yeah.
That's
yes,
what
exactly. So the immune system has what they call memory. Memory. It is like the brain. If you encounter a pathogen, your immune system is able to put some of your cells and antibodies in memory. So that next time when you encounter the same pathogen, it's able to deal with it even at a heightened level. So there is that aspect of memory, with the immune system. And again, that is the whole basis of the development of a vaccine, which probably we'll talk about, later. Yes.
Which is what I was about to ask. So in vaccines and vaccination, is the same idea of the memory of the immune system?
Yes. So the principle behind vaccinology is the fact that if the immune system has a feature of memory, if you are given a shot of a product, and usually it's the weakened form, it's the weakened or the killed form of an organism, your immune system will see it foreign as foreign. So it will mount, immune response. It will produce antibodies. It will produce lymphocytes. All that requires to, shield the host from that, infection. But again, it is not a rare thing. Dummy is like a dummy form of the organism. So next time when you encounter the rare thing, whether it's a virus or a parasite or a bacteria, your immune system has matured enough to be able to deal with it. Okay. So that is the whole principle behind.
So it's like the immune system figuring out the code to defeat this particular enemy you've seen before. Exactly. Okay. So
maybe before we go on, talking of the immune system, you were right. The word immune came from immunis, which meant exemption, actually.
Exemption, yes.
It was originally used for exemption from taxes. Yes. So if you're talking from that perspective, then it is important that we understand that actually it was meant to exempt you.
Exempt you from.
So if you're talking of immunology, immune system, in relation to the things that are happening right now, is it possible for you to be exempted? Which is what you were referring to from 400 BC. Yeah. That some of the people were exempted from whatever was happening. Everybody else was seemingly getting sick. They were not getting sick. That's why you actually have immunity from prosecution, diplomatic immunity from this immunity. So we need to understand that.
Yeah, we need to understand that. We need to go deeper in that, because just the sound of that immunity from this virus or plague, it's already a very interesting door to knock on. Is it possible? Is there something that we need to be doing to get to where we are right now, to the ideal position? That is, have an immune system.
So if I just quickly put in here, that's one of the reasons why we are talking today about immune system. Because then immune system is not only protecting you against viruses, it protects you against bacteria, against fungi, against other things. Because usually there are 5 basic things. You're talking of the aspect of virus, bacteria, fungi, protozoans, and then finally worms. Now, which part of the immune system protects you against what? That's why it's important for us to know you have what you call non-specific and the specific immune system. Because the non-specific is innate in you. But the specific is what I heard you had already started, asking questions about. Because that's what, has to do with acquired as a result of, something attacking you, and then you had to quickly, your body was made to do that.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning, the non-specific.
Yes.
Can you...
So he mentioned innate immunity. Innate means, you had it at birth. At birth, a child should have something handy to deal with this. A child is born today, that child needs some protection against diseases. So you have something handy. And, so it involves your skin. Your skin is part of your, immune system. The lining of your,
mucous
membrane, and all that, they are all part of the innate, immune response. They are cells that are able to eat up, organisms. They are all parts of the innate, immune response. And they are there to make sure that you are protected at that very early stage. Because as we'll realize later, you develop immunity as you get exposed to, all these parasites, bacteria, and all that. So at that stage, at birth, you should be able to have something handy. And that is where the innate immune system works. It does not mean the innate system wouldn't work when you are very, very, very old. But as you are exposed to a lot of pathogens, then you develop what he said, what we term the acquired. Acquired means it's something which you experience. You experience it. You encountered it. So as you go along in life, you are encountering all these, parasites, bacteria, viruses, and then you develop immunity, against them. And even within the acquired immunity, you also have what they call the humora, you have cells, and you have, antibodies. These are all factors that, gives you some level of protection as you
Because the antibodies usually are developed against the antigens.
Antigens, exactly. Maybe it's a very important term that you have introduced, antigen. The pathogens will elicit, proteins which are called antigens. And your immune system would recognize those antigens in order to, deal with them. And that is where the antibodies, as you mentioned, came in. Not only the antibodies, your cells, that's B cells and T cells and all that, which I wouldn't want to go.
T cells, well, it's important. The T cells are killer cells.
Yeah.
All right? So you do have, like, the immune system is your defense system. It is like you put security people at your gate.
Yeah.
The immune system is supposed to be the security system for your body. That's why the first line of defense being the gate skin, for example. That's the first gate.
Right.
And that's why they say it's covering, intergumentary system. Then, from gument to cover. Then you also have the other aspect that is internal, but it's still covering. Some of the mucous membrane lining your respiratory system, breathing and all that. Then the gastrointestinal, because of some of the things you'll be eating. You need that. Then the aspect that has to now do with your, genitourinary tract. So again, there are things that if it were not for the immune system helping you, because both male and female, those are sensitive areas that you could end up with all kinds of infections.
Right.
So you need the immune system to be boosted to the highest level. It will actually be the security system that is protecting you from all of these things. And it's important that we emphasize the need for us to do that. Having said that, obviously she could ask more questions now concerning, okay, so what do we do in this area and that area? But it was important that we got to understand, okay, look, you're saying non-specific, specific. Okay, every human being has the non-specific. And the specific will be with time as, you go on. But because there are lifestyle practices that end up overtaxing, because no matter how strong your security system, you could have 1 million soldiers. If you have too many enemies coming at you in different places, and you haven't been able to ward them off, you might have a challenge. Like nuclear defense system, defense system for all kinds of Scud missiles and all that. That helps your soldiers to concentrate on the people that are directly attacking, as against now having to also worry about so many things. So what we talked about in the previous episode was the fact that you need a bulletproof immune system, so that then it becomes like a bulletproof vest, as against just, fighting. How about anytime anything comes, like you talked about, even leukocytes eating and all the, things that are coming in, viruses, bacteria, if you have something that neutralizes whatever is coming at that particular point in time, then you have very little to worry about.
The aspect of the immune system being non-specific is the innate immunity. Yeah. It is the same for all. But when you come to the specific, it is specific in the sense that each organism or each pathogen will elicit or produce an antigen. And your immune system will have to have specific response to that, even for the same disease. As you will come to appreciate. Yeah. I mean, this virus that is circulating, it is a version of some earlier one. So even when it comes to disease, the disease like malaria, fine, if you had malaria many, many years ago, and you had one just today, if you look under the microscope, the parasite will look the same. But if you go further to look at it at the molecular level, it will be a different parasite. So it means the immune response against the earlier malaria you had about 4 or 5 years ago, even though you were able to defend against that malaria, had protection against it, but the new malaria that you had a day or two ago is a new strain, might be a mutation. So specificity is very important, and it's important for the fact that the host also has the potential or the capacity to produce infinite numbers of specific immune response. So the individual is able to produce infinite specific antibodies. Even with the virus, the current virus, I believe people are producing even different antibodies, because probably the virus might have mutated as it moves from one person to the other.
Or even from one environment to the other.
Yes, even from one environment to
another.
The other. Yes.
Is different type of climatic conditions.
Climatic condition and so exactly.
So that becomes something. Yeah. That's why you have this immunogenetics, as an area of study for people to see all the differences. The phagocytosis, because if you say phage, macrophage, like, geophagy, what you're saying is that phage is to eat. So anything that has to do with what your body produces to eat, for lack of a better word, whatever is coming in, is studied in, that particular area. So I think he could touch a little bit on, phagocytosis, for example, and then we'll now probably see how we can move to, solutions. What do we do?
Phagocytosis is very important, because usually one of the first line of defense, mechanism. Like he likened the immune system to an army. You have the 1st battalion, the 2nd battalion, I don't know, and the others. And when there is a war, you have the first troops that will move, then the second troop. Phagocytosis is one of the first line of the defense. So anytime the host encounters a pathogen, it will be one of the first mechanisms. So these are cells, a group of cells that will be able to, that go and eat up the organism and destroy it. If it is not able to do it, it will then marshal the second line of defense. So that is how it works. And you touch on a very important, the immunogenetics. Yeah. What is immunogenetics? And it's very, very important for the audience to understand this. Immunogenetics in 2 levels with the organism. Like we said, the organism will mutate as it moves from one environment to the other. It will change its forms, because we are competing with this organism. They want to thrive in us, and we also want to destroy them. So they will change their form so that we will not be able to deal with them. So then, that is where the mutations come into the organism. And we, as a host, there is also an aspect of us, because again we inherit. We inherit our level of immunity from our parents. Some are able to deal with some disease better than the others. There was a study done a couple of years ago where in the case of malaria, where children who were exposed to the same level of mosquito bites, they were eating the same food and all that. And they realized that some of the children were developing severe malaria as against those who were not developed. And when they did a immunogenetic study, they realized that they were carrying different levels of immunity. So we are what we are because of our genes. So some individuals are able to mount strong immune response as against the others. There are other reasons which maybe you want to.
Well, obviously, if it comes to that, being conscious of time, the only thing I would immediately add is epigenetics. Now, epi in Greek just means upon. Over. So epigenetics, with that you are able to superimpose, because most of the sicknesses and diseases, scientifically proven, about 87 to 95% first occur in your brain, because your mind though it cannot be seen, is like the heart of your brain. That's the one that controls your brain. So because you are able to now think and have that line of defense, so talking about battalions, that's another battalion that is very important, because then the way you think, your confidence and not being afraid and all that.
Stress, anxiety.
Yes, because anxiety, hysteria, panic, fear, they all lower your immunity.
Immunosuppression, it results in immunosuppression.
Like even drugs, immunosuppressants. Those who suppress is like they're pushing down your immunity to a level lower than it should have been regularly. So that's one area. So in terms of genetics, there is that aspect where they have seen that they might tell you it's already in your genes, but you can change it. There are even people that have proven, like Caroline Leaf, for example. She has proven that you can, in 21 days, change your genes by your thinking and some specific things you will do.
Now there's even gene therapy, so you can change your gene, manipulate your gene,
Yes.
and then you okay with that disease.
Dr. Amen, Daniel Amen, for example, has come up with ways you can actually use your mind and your brain to change your life. He says, change your mind, change your life. So there are things that God has given us. As he thinks in his heart, so is he. Not only that, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So there are things that can change. So yes, it's true, there is the aspect of your genes and all of that. We are learning to know what we can do generally, but ultimately, except the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord watch over a city, the watchmen stay awake in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early and sit up late only to eat the bread of sorrows. I think the bankruptcy of humanity to address things adequately, perfectly, 100% is being shown even with the current times and seasons where we have coronavirus. But anyway, let me, stop here for now until we get more questions and address the specific issues in terms of where do we go from here.
Yes. So I'm hearing two things as a layperson. We as our human system is learning. The pathogens are learning, and so there's always going to be that battle of who is dominating who. How do we put ourselves in the best position? What do we do practically to always give our immune system a fighting chance or a step ahead of these, these pathogens that are basically evolving with the material we're giving them? We're doing the same thing. We're building immunity based on the material that they're giving us. But like you said, new viruses are forming, new strains of diseases. It doesn't end, and it's the cycle of life. How are we positioning ourselves in terms of our immune systems? What are we doing practically? How can we, get a step ahead with our practices, with our what do we do with our lifestyle? That's for you, and then for Dr. Abu, how are we taking this same fight, for lack of a better term, in the realm of our brains, our minds? How are we, again, positioning ourselves and strengthening ourselves to give ourselves, creating what you call a bulletproof immune system? The concept of a bulletproof immune system, is that a practical possibility?
Okay, let him start.
Yes, so like I said, and just to add to what he said, we have the grace, we have all that it takes to mount strong defense against the diseases. As I indicated earlier on, we are capable of dealing with all diseases, even diseases which are yet to emerge. If we are to be living in this world for the next 1,000 years, there will be new diseases which we have never seen.
Right.
But the immune system is primed in such a way that any new disease the immune system will deal with it. Of course, some people will not survive, like all the plagues that we talked about. And Dr. Abuja, just to support you, the fact that our mind also is very, very important. I think you know of a lot of studies which have been done elsewhere where they look at people with faith, and those that faith.
Yes.
And then they show clearly that those with faith who were battling some diseases, their immune system boosted.
Yeah.
And they were able to, ward off those diseases. Why those without faith, I'm not saying that, if you are without faith, you will not be able to fight. But it's sort of, it buttress what, he said, that there are a lot of things we should be able to do as individuals to be able to boost our immune system. Coming back to your question again, the father, what do we do? We need to eat the right food. We have a balanced diet because these antibodies, you produce at the right quality, at the right quantity when you have the best of nutrition. So that is very, very, very important for us, as a people. We need to look at the sort of food that, we eat and then add on some other measures which probably he will want to.
Yeah. So, first of all, when you talk about boosting your immune system, usually we want to talk about diet. So lifestyle.
Yes, it's a lifestyle practice. Yeah.
What you include diet, exercise, things you expose yourself to, things you try to keep yourself from, which is one of the reasons why we say, okay, as much as the specific immune system is learning and dealing with issues, you don't need to overwork it. So to have, because you asked the question, bulletproof immune system. First thing is to ensure that in terms of our lifestyle practices, the diet, sleeping patterns, because many times people just say, make sure you sleep 6, 7, 8 hours. It's the deep sleep actually. So is it non-REM? Is it REM, rapid eye movement? That's the REM. People need to do that. And, for the viewers, you can Google things like that to see for yourself. But going to the point that each one of these actually adds. So talking about diet, what are some of the things we can eat that are immune boosting? Well, we do know, for example, that any natural source of vitamin C would help to boost your immune system.
Why natural? Why do you specify natural?
I actually emphasize natural because the synthetic, well, there seem to have been quite a few, research results, that studies that showed that the synthetic could be even more harmful than what you're trying to deal with. So it's better to look for natural sources. What are some of the natural sources? Citrus fruits, orange, lemon, lime, you could go on papayas, all of those, including even, pineapples and all that. Having said that, you also do have something, because there are quite a number of vegetables that have a lot of vitamin C. And the one that I personally know about that has a lot of vitamin C, that has 7 times the vitamin C in oranges, is the moringa, for example. Now, you say, well, what if I don't have a moringa tree? Well, you can try and get moringa powder, moringa capsules, moringa, that's one. You could also look at ways of boosting your immunity in terms of things that are microbial, antimicrobial, antifungal, antibacterial. Honey is one. Yeah. Just make sure it's natural honey, 100%. Otherwise, also there are people mixing all kinds of things like sugar. You also have the vitamins C we've already talked about, but you also have something like coconut oil that is antimicrobial, antiviral, because viruses, people are talking about corona now, for example, is antiviral, so things that are antiviral, you could Google some of the things. The only challenge is that even with Googling, you need to go for like PubMed, or, you know,
Medline,
Medline, or, you know, WebMD, stuff like that, that happen to be medically correct as against, you know, people just throwing out all kinds of things, their own personal ideas, and sometimes they are misleading and all that. Having said that, you could Google some of the things that are antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, you know, and if you could actually have for the 5 areas, you know, the virus, you know, bacteria, fungi, protozoans, and worms, then, because the reason I mentioned, for example, papaya is actually also something that will deal with worms, a dewormer, especially the seeds and all that. So boosting your immune system is not only about the viruses, because of the season, everybody's talking virus. No. It's all of these 5 areas that you're supposed to be fighting against. So make sure things that would help you to deal with viruses, things that will help you to deal with, you know, bacteria, things that will help you to do with fungi, things that will help you to do with protozoans, things that will help you to deal with worms. You are actually taking them, you're eating them. At the same time, if you need to drink, because there are things that have to do with even juicing, and sometimes it might be even, you know, smoothies that you need. Then you pack them with, you know, things that are very, very rich in antioxidants. You know, but antioxidants are very important at this particular point in time, and you know, because what is antioxidant? Anything that would try to fight oxidation or reduce the rate of the progress of oxidation. What is oxidation? Anything that is going to age your cells fast and reduce their virality, you know.
Cancer, it also results in
cancers and all that. Because, for example, you know, if you cut an apple or anything like that, a fruit, and you leave it out, oxidation is what makes it turn brown and all of that. So it's like it's aging fast. But when it was intact, it was not aging, it was firm. So that's what happens also to your cell. The antioxidants would then, you know, mitigate the rate of the decay or aging of your cells. So the antioxidants, some of the antioxidants we already know, you know, for example, you know, even for the aspect of diet, apart from what we've already mentioned, allicin-containing foods, like, you know, the ordinary onion, you know, garlic, stuff like that, allicin, because it's very important at the end of the day, ginger, you know, even what people call ordinary pepper, you know, everybody is now talking cayenne. But the hotter, the better, actually, because, you know, it helps. No, it's true. There are certain parts of your brain that actually fire better neurons the more. That's why people are looking for, you know, capsaicin. You know that capsaicin actually helps as an anti-inflammation. Okay. So there are many things that would quite help in that respect. But having said that, let me just, you know, allow our questioner go on, because if you're talking of practical things you can do, those are some of the things. Then, of course, sanitation is very important. That's why you're talking of sanitizers and all of that. Well, natural sanitizers will be very important, like vinegar with lemon. In fact, maybe I should say this. Apart from, you know, house cleaning agents, making sure you don't bring the industrial ones that will end up actually messing up your system, formaldehyde that is meant for embalming. You're embalming yourself well ahead of time and all of that. You know, we can replace them with more immune-friendly, natural cleaning agents. Like
which are equally or more effective.
They are actually more effective. For example, if you took vinegar, all right? I know most people now are talking of drinking apple cider vinegar, which is very important also, once you know the percentages. But even the clarified vinegar, which is supposed to be for cleaning mainly, if you know how to put that with lemons, or lime, you might be able to actually scent your house. At the same time, you're killing more germs than otherwise. And there is no side effect, unlike those industrial cleaners that you have. And then, in terms of the lemons, like I was saying, if, for example, you were able to boil water, because it will help with the extraction of the whatever lemonades and all that are coming both from the skin and from the inside. You know, and you added honey, which is also antiviral, antimicrobial, and all that. And you were drinking that. For those who are fasting, for example, at least for those of you in Logos River Foundation, maybe that might be the first thing you drink when you're breaking your fast. That would actually boost your immune system, because you boil this lemon maybe for each, let's say, mug full of water, maybe half a lemon, maximum full lemon, depending on the size again, you know, but medium size. You just cut it in 3 and put it there. Then, so you can multiply if you're doing it for the whole house. It could be very useful. You say, well, what are you talking about? Are you saying now that will be the final solution? We're looking at all the possible areas to help you boost. And then, of course, you should make sure then that when you're eating quite a bit of ginger and, you know, the things that people don't like sometimes, because, garlic. But you need garlic now more than ever before. The bubonic plague, for example, remember, it was actually onions that helped some people, because they realized that some people, especially in South Africa, when there was the outbreak, you know, 19 or something, you know, they ended up with a situation where some neighbors said, well, how come nobody in this house got sick? They discovered onions were cut and put in the 4 corners of each room. I'm not saying once you cut onion, don't do the rest of the things. I'm just saying that, you know, that's what happens. And that will be important for us to say, that sometimes when you end up as a viewer now saying, okay, I'm going to do that, please, for onions, when you cut onions, if you're going to put them in the fridge, don't eat them thereafter, because they could become poisonous, because they are now the ones that are attracting all the toxins in your refrigerator, so that your food could be safe. If you must cut onions to use later, please, please, please make sure you cover. Seal. So that you don't have the challenges.
It's a very good. People expose it. And,
So then because it's actually absorbing the toxins from, you know, the atmosphere, and then now you're going to eat the toxins, then you're actually giving your immune system more work, especially the gastrointestinal, you know, mucous membranes that we talked about in the, you know, first line of defense. We said the 2 main things were, 1, the skin and the mucous membrane lining, 1, your respiratory system, 2, gastrointestinal system, 3, the aspect of your genital urinary system or tract. So it's important that people understand, if you want to practically do something, these are some of the things you should do. And then, of course, you know, the aspect of faith you were talking about, where people have to now ensure that they are meditating on the Word of God for us. Others will tell you in the Far East, the meditation is very useful, even, you know, people who do Eastern meditation, because it calms your mind and you ensure that you are not anxious. Because we said anxiety, stress-related, work-related stress, you should minimize that as much as possible. You know, so they say occupational stress. Then domestic stress, as much as possible. This is a good time. Even God has allowed the opportunities through coronavirus for people to be together. So, you know, then look for ways of actually making each other happy. And if, I must say, spiritually, you should look for ways of actually renewing your covenant with God by taking communion every evening, if possible, in your house. Then the aspect of having prayer together, because whoever you pray to, pray with, pray for, you end up getting closer to. So the more you pray to God, you end up getting closer to God. The more you pray with somebody, you get closer to that person. The more you pray for that person, you get closer. So those are some of the things you need to do practically. And then make sure you are not fearful. Because after all, 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, God has not given us a spirit of fear, nor of timidity, but of power, boldness, of love, and of a sound mind. The more love you have, the less fear you will have. So let's create more of a loving environment for our people, for our children, for members of the household. I think you can go on and, you know.
So just to cut into one of the things you said about nutrition, is how we are eating, what we are eating, as important as what we're eating. So you mentioned garlics, for example,
Yes.
and onions,
Yes.
And peppers.
Yes.
You know, if people were to listen and to hear, okay, well, I need to eat a lot of garlic, and you know, they're mashing up their garlic and they're killing it on the heat for 10 hours before they eat it.
So how do
How are we, you know, how are these natural immune boosting nutrients meant to be?
You made a very important point. Both he and myself will actually have to comment on that. When it comes to the issues that have to do with allicin-containing compounds, like, you know, the onion and the garlic. You said mashing, and then you let a lot of that escape. And then maybe after that, you even go and boil, and it's in an open pot, everything. I think it's important, like you're saying, what we eat, how we eat, where we go, when we go, how we go about going, where we're going, will be very important. In fact, for those that are not aware, even in the prophecies for the year 2020 that God gave us, there was the aspect of, you know, security threats. And he did say that Psalm 127 will be key for this year. One of the things we'll have to, except the Lord watches over a city. But then he said we should watch what we eat and where we go. Because the environment, like he will tell you, any virus, any bacteria, any parasite, without an enabling environment in the host, would end up dying. It will not survive. So it's the enabling environment. So bulletproof immune system then has to do with giving your immune system the boost necessary to make it hostile to any invader that comes. So yes, like the lemon, we talked about the aspect of heat extracting more. It doesn't mean that you'll boil it forever. No. That's why it's even better you have boiled water and then cut the lemon into it, as against the other way around. I might add here that some years back, there was a lady that was taking lemon a particular way. We are not going to that today. But I just shared with that particular family what to do. And she was taking lemon, you know, with hot water every morning with just a bit of honey. And she was doing so religiously every day. And within 1 year, her filling in the tooth came out. And at age 46, she grew her teeth back. Believe it or not. She's in Lagos. So the point here is that God, when he was making you, ensured he had equipped you with everything necessary. You are the best product, manufactured by the best manufacturer, in the best factory. Do you think he did not see the things that will be coming that are not yet here? Because he knows the end from the beginning. And there are viruses, parasites, you know, bacteria that we are yet to even. But he had already equipped you with all that is necessary to battle all of those. What we need to do is not fight God, but cooperate with God. First, by getting to know him personally, asking him what he will have us eat, what he will have us do, because I tell you, for example, the mucous membranes that we were talking about, for example, sometime in 2001, no, 1991. I went on a fast. You know, the 21 days fasting, because you need to, also deal with that aspect where maybe you have already cleaned out your, mucus that covers, your stomach lining, like what we call tower in local language, okay? Now, because I had cleaned that out, I was on just water and maybe 2 teaspoons full of honey a day for 21 days, nothing else. By the time I came back, my stomach was very, very tender. But I needed to start doing things in 2 days. So I said, God, usually I would take, that was not my first time, I've done it several times, but I would take about 5 days to get back to normal eating. Now I need the strength to go and do. What can I take? He said, take avocado. And I took avocado. And within 2 days, I was eating normally. And somebody who was a dietitian, somebody who was a nutritionist dietitian, because she had read nutrition and dietetics in the US and practiced for about 15 years. Pastor, you want to kill yourself? I said, I heard from God. And she said she went to ask God what. Then God said, that was the, like stopgap lining, covering for me. While my, system was now making the mucus to line up the stomach walls.
And it's very important. The fact that our mucus lining or the membrane is very, very important. It gives us a very effective protection against the diseases. And so if you hear somebody selling a product and he said that, look, when you take that product, you release phlegms and all these mucus, you are putting yourself in danger. You are, destroying a very, very important component of your immune system.
Yeah, so
and we do have that misconception that the more of this, because when we
phlegm,
have when we have colds and when we feel like the phlegm is coming out, we're cleansing ourselves from the inside.
As for that one, it's a natural response.
Yes.
But see, people sell some products, herbal products, and they tell that if you take it, it will clear your phlegms, all these mucus. Look, you are killing yourself. As for the other one you're talking about, it's a natural response.
Yes. So, and I think that because we see that natural response, we think more is better.
More is better, exactly.
Which is why we fall.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
prey to these.
Yes.
Because in terms of the natural, God made it in such a way that there is a balance.
That's exactly.
As soon as that threat is over,
it stops.
Pathogens have been cleared out.
Dr. Bako, you've raised a very, very important aspect of the immune system, which for me is exciting. The fact that it's like an army going to battle. Once the job is done, they have to go back to barracks. And that's how even your immune system is primed. Anytime it is able to do the job. And I don't think we'll have time to go through it, because then I'll come to issue of anti-inflammatory and pro-inflammatory immune response and all that. But anytime your immune system, is able to deal with a situation, it then comes back to normal. Your immune system will elicit a response that it will make sure that you come back to, normal. So that is a very, very important issue that you've raised.
So it becomes important for us to realize that the natural response is good. We did say mucous membranes lining your respiratory system. So that's why you end up either the mouth aspect or the nostrils. You are getting rid of whatever had been localized and thrown
ejected,
out.
Right.
Now, having ejected that, you then go back to normal. But if you have to remove the one that is supposed to be there,
protecting you,
then you are actually endangering your life to an extent. That's one. Then there is also the aspect of even what we call inflammation. He talked about anti-inflammatories and all that. As much as we won't go deep into that, it is important that your immune system actually also is supposed to be dealing with that. So what's the relationship between, pain and inflammation generally in your system? Because sometimes people don't realize the immune system actually aids in dealing with pain. Now, so you are the immunologist. So
I mean, I'm not well versed in that, but I know that the immune system is able to deal with pain. Anytime there's pain, your immune system will release.
But you were talking of anti-inflammatory.
Oh, anti-inflammatory with respect to even anti-inflammatory. Oh, yes. So the immune system is able to deal with. So you are either, your system always will have to be in a balance.
Equilibrium,
But equilibrium, exactly. But something happens so that it moves up, and then you deal with it, and it has to come to normal. Even with this disease, with this coronary disease, for those who are dying, it is to the extent that they have excess inflammation. Excess inflammation leads to, severe diseases. In fact, I read it in a journal yesterday that those who are dying is due to the fact that they are having excessive inflammation. So their immune system is not able to counterbalance that inflammation, so then it leads to something else. So it's a very, very important issue that you raised. But for you raised it with respect to pain.
Yeah, because inflammation actually becomes like one of the baselines for the pain and all those other things that we talk about. But, I realize we just have about 5 more minutes to go. We would have to probably visit this another time so that we can actually go into that. But I think it's important that we understand the immune system is very important. That is what we need, because as for the aspect of viruses, it might be SARS yesterday. It might be human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. It might be Ebola. It might be another thing tomorrow. Then bacteria. Bacteriologists will tell you what things are there. Parasitologists will tell you about parasites and all that. All of these things that we talked about, the 5 areas, that you're talking viruses, you're talking bacteria, fungi, you're talking about protozoans, which we didn't even really go into today, then worms and all that. But your immune system has been equipped with what is necessary. So the ones that have not even appeared on Earth yet, why don't we make sure that we equip our soldiers with the weaponry to deal with that? Because the one who made us equipped us with everything necessary. We just need to make sure we're feeding our soldiers. That's what we're saying in essence. Because if you starve your soldiers, no matter how versatile they are, they will end up not being able to defend you when the need arises. So make sure.
Rebel, they'll rebel.
Turn against you.
They'll turn against you. They'll rebel.
Okay, so,
Turn against you. Thank you very much. We've learned a lot. If we wanted to, for people out there, know more about how nutrition, for example, where do I find what I need to find? What do I need to find? They can get all of that information on our website.
Yes, in terms of that, what they need to do is, since they have access to these channels now, they should try and send messages, because our technical team then will help us. And then, of course, there are institutes like the Futuristic Institute for Evolutionary Science and Technology, which will use the acronym FIRST. It actually helps because we then delve deeper into these things. You'll have experts coming from various parts of the world, and we even have students from various parts of the world. And if by that time, I believe we wouldn't have this lockdown anymore by that time, which will be in September. If by that time there is any challenge, we'll still do it online. It's just that it will be by logging in that particular case. But you can write to us, and we'll be able to give you further guidance as to what to do practically, and then where do I get some of the things. Some of our youth are already making, these things that you can use, the products that you can use. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. So everything is available on our website or whatever channel you're watching this on. Just reach out to Logos Rima Foundation for Leadership Resource Development. And thank you very much, Dr. Jan and Dr. Abu. We will
Thank
see
you.
you on the next episode. Thank you.